This video is related to the upcoming United Nations Education Summit, which is aimed at finding ways to transform global education to better prepare young people to be more productive and fulfilled adults and lifelong learners, and also to finding ways to promote the recovery of education losses due to COVID-19.
By the time COVID is behind us, most of the world's children will have suffered up to 2 years or more of reduced education.
Already, 7 out of 10 10-year-olds in low and middle-income countries cannot understand a simple written text, an increase of more than 30% in less than 3 years.
And 90% of all children in the world live in low and middle-income countries.
In the United States, the pandemic has erased 20 years of reading and math progress.
A report by UNESCO, the World Bank, and a number of others said that COVID-19 is the worst shock to education and learning in recorded history.
Finally, the pandemic could cost the current generation as much as $21 trillion in lifelong earnings. That's 17% of current global GDP.
It's obvious that for education, COVID-19 has been a catastrophe.
At the same time, more people have experienced firsthand the impact of COVID on education than almost any other event in history, either in their own family or other families in their communities.
They therefore recognize the need for a meaningful global response to the education losses due to COVID.
This means that in addition to being a major catastrophe, COVID also represents a unique opportunity
to leverage all those who would like to see a meaningful global response to COVID
in order to mobilize the world's masses to address problems with education, but also all the other problems facing the world.
This world is hungry for a meaningful global response to the education losses due to COVID.
Reading is one of the most symbolic and most critical aspects of education.
Imagine if global and national leaders were to call on all primary and secondary schools in their respective countries to be part of a massive global demonstration of resolve to overcome the education losses due to COVID.
By having all their students participate in the biggest global readathon in history.
During 1 month to be designated as Read for a Better World Month.
Imagine if businesses, foundations, and others were to announce a plan to incentivize students' reading by pledging small donations for every hour read in a class, in a school,
or even in a city or state during the readathon, potentially raising more than $1 billion globally.
Imagine Rotary, Lions, and other organizations with local chapters organizing local events in communities all around the world
to ensure local leaders and school officials in every community are aware of the campaign and know that these organizations are there to help them rally their communities behind the reading efforts of their students.
Imagine 500 million or more students worldwide reading 40 minutes a day during the Read for a Better World Month.
A total of more than 10 billion hours.
Not only is such an event likely to be the biggest global readathon in history, it's likely to be the largest organized human endeavor in the history of mankind.
Now that would be a fitting response to COVID.
Imagine that the funds raised through the readathon were dedicated to dramatically reducing the number of children in the world not in school due to poverty.
It's not hard to imagine the number of children not in school being reduced by as much as 10 million in the first year. And if Read for a Better World Month were an annual event, the number of children not in school worldwide due to poverty could potentially be reduced to 0 by 2030.
Imagine if during the month following Read for a Better World Month, a day was declared to be International Honor the Readers Day, and on that day, ceremonies were held in almost every community in the world to honor every student who had participated in the readathon as an official global citizen hero, because the hours they read led to the raising of the funds that so dramatically changed the lives of millions of the world's poorest children.
Just imagine how proud those students and their families would be. It's not hard to imagine that many of these new global citizen heroes will be interested in following opportunities to participate in further initiatives for a better world.
For example, a global, student-driven campaign to reduce the number of 10-year-olds unable to read effectively by half, worldwide, within 3 years.
A global Future We Want competition that would have students in lower secondary schools around the world analyzing the state of SDG achievement in their local communities and imagining ways to more effectively address the SDGs locally to bring about the future they want.
And finally, other global competitions and programs aimed at helping the bulk of students worldwide to become confident, independent learners, master problem solvers, and effective global citizens.
So, how can we do this?
Later this month, the UN is hosting an education summit focused on finding ways to transform global education to better prepare young people to be more productive and fulfilled adults, and of course lifelong learners, as well as to find ways to promote the recovery of education losses due to COVID-19.
What better place to announce an initiative to mobilize students in schools around the entire world and a massive global response to the education losses due to COVID?
This is an opportunity for the global education community and UN leaders to call on all member state leaders, and especially ministers of education, to have all primary and secondary schools in their respective countries be part of this global demonstration of resolve to overcome the education losses due to COVID.
And to call on civil service organizations and others to join in supporting the educators and students in this campaign.
Some things to know. This initiative requires no government funding and almost no administrative overhead. Simply announce it, get schools to participate, and then leave it up to local school administrators and teachers to encourage and track the reading of their students and periodically report the aggregate reading results of the school. No information about individual students would leave their school.
And leave it up to Rotary, Lions, and other similar organizations with local representations to organize community support for the initiative, including pep rallies, local pledge drives, and honor the Readers' Day ceremony.
If we fail to take advantage of this opportunity now, what are we likely to see a year from now? Are we likely to see hundreds of millions of students worldwide working to reduce the number of children unable to read effectively?
Are we likely to see students in schools around the world actively studying the state of SDG achievement in their communities and seeking ways to do something about those SDGs not yet achieved?
Are we likely to see the number of children not in school due to poverty rapidly declining due to the efforts of other students around the world?
Many of whom probably thought they would never be in a position to help someone else, and now realizing that they have something of value. Namely, every hour they read is now worth something.
So, to you stakeholders attending the UN Education Summit, and especially UN and UN agency officials, national leaders, and Ministry of Education executives, it's up to you. Will you, a year from now, look back with satisfaction at having triggered the most massive education movement in history? Or will you look back and wonder if it might have worked and regretting not have taken the risk to find out?
Should we fail? Let it not be because we did not aim high enough,
and not having tried hard enough,
or having assumed others will make up the difference to what's needed.
There's the grace.